Over the weekend, the President of Kenya, William Ruto, together with his deputy, Rigathi Gachagua, attended a church event in Nyandarua. And from the speeches, one person seemed to be on a political Damascus. That is Rigathi Gachagua. Gachagua's U-turn to embrace President Ruto and seem to play as a friendlier, or seem to pull the friendlier card, is not just a normal political occurrence in politics, but rather an intentional directional change with an intended political objective. Welcome to the Bold Analysis. My name is Frank. But just before we go on, for the past 2 to 3 days, we've not been able to have Kevin on the platform because when he did travel, of course, towards home over the weekend, some days towards the weekend, but something unfortunate happened to him while he was traveling. He got involved in a road accident together with his family. That is where his car overturned somewhere past Nakuru, just after getting from Nakuru. So it was quite fortunate that God had him, and the injuries sustained there were not that severe. Of course, he's in a stable condition as we continue keeping in prayers with him. And maybe if you're a friend of the channel, you're a friend of Kevin, I think that maybe for those who want to maybe send him messages of strength, of being together with him, whether you want to stand with him in kind, financially, you want to support him spiritually, you want to support him emotionally, his number is on the screen. Of course, these are the pictures. I've also been able to share the pictures from the scene that happened over the weekend. So our thoughts and prayers are with Kevin together with his family. For a start, I want us to listen to these few speeches that were made in Nyandarua yesterday. Then from there, we'll have a better analysis, direction of law on the speeches that caught the attention of many, especially that of Rigathi Gachagua, when he asked leaders from Mount Kenya to stop and not to abuse William Ruto, but rather to cooperate with William Ruto. When, in real sense, he's been the person who has been a charm offensive tour, rough the mountain in order to try to bring the mountain to his side and jostle and restore the mountain away from William Ruto. The first speech is of Nyeri Governor Mwalimu Mutahi, who made a press statement, I think that was in his office, where he asked the president, he commended rather the president for the bold step that the president made of dismissing the rest of the cabinet, and then asked the president not to bring the likes of Raila Odinga into his new purported political alliance, with the remarks that Raila will destroy his government.
Kwamba kuna wengi ambao kwa sababu tumeona fununu kana kwamba anakusudia kuleta wengi, hasa kupitia maneno yake alisema atafanya mazungumzo na baadhi ya vitengo vingi. Tungetaka tumwambie kuna wengi ambao wamezoea kuletwa katika serikali kupitia milango ya nyuma, na kila wanapoingia katika serikali wanaleta hasara, fujo na fitina katika zero serikali. Yeye mwenyewe rais ni shahidi mkubwa kwamba kuna wengine walioingizwa katika serikali ya Uhuru ambao walileta vurugu na ikaleta utengano mkubwa kati yake na rais. Tunakumbuka hata wakati wa Kibaki mambo yalikuwa ni vile vile. Kwa hivyo sasa anapoenda kulenda na kuunda baraza lake la mawaziri, tunamuomba rais kumbuka yale. Mwaka wa 27 kutakuwa na uchaguzi. Kuna wale walio kuchagua ambao waliamini maono yako, ambao waliamini kwamba wewe ulikuwa uipeleke Kenya mbele, lakini sasa ukiwaleta wengine ambao kabisa hawakukuamini, hasa hata ulipokuwa ukitangaza yale mambo ambao ungetufanyia, basi wachunge wale, usije kwa Waswahili tunasema uende ukapeleka mzinga nyumbani ukakuta kumbe ulibeba mzinga na ndani yake kuna nyuki.
That is Mutahi. Now moving forward to Rigathi's speech. You know, Rigathi's speech really had a lot in it politically, and even in regards to the way or the next steps that Ruto will be taking. And for the first time in a while, we saw the Deputy President receive William Ruto. We saw the Deputy President arrive with a military chopper. We saw a happier Rigathi Gachagua and a more close to William Ruto Rigathi Gachagua than had been the instance in the recent past. This is the speech of Rigathi Gachagua.
Sisi rais katika eneo hili nifanye ndio nikuite. Mimi nauliza watu wa Mlima Kenya, tafadhali tusifuate mienendo tumeona idea zingine. Watu kutukana kiongozi ambaye amechaguliwa. Nimeona jana watu wakiongea huko eneo ingine wanatukana huyu kiongozi. Huyu kiongozi ndio tumechagua. Sisi watu ya eneo hili ni watu tuko na nidhamu na tuko na heshima na viongozi. Huyu Rais William Ruto sisi ndio tumechagua. Tumpatie heshima na tumsaidie. Akitukana na watu wengine sisi tusiingie kwa hiyo mtego. Tumekubaliana? Sisi ni watu wa Kristo, ni watu waaminifu na ni watu tuko na msimamo. Tukipenda kiongozi tumempenda na tutakaa na yeye vile yako kwa sababu ndio tumechagua. Hata kama iko shida tutasimama na rais. Na mimi sitaki nikiwa kiongozi wenu katika eneo hili kuona watu wote wakimkemea rais na kumkosea heshima. Let us respect our president because that's what the Bible tells us to do. Na kwa sababu sisi ni watu ya heshima. Na kama iko matatizo tutatatua kwa njia ya amani na njia ya heshima. Na rais tukitaka atasikiza. Nitwaiguithania andũ aitũ. Nitwaiguithania. Nitwaiguithania. Nitwaiguithania andũ aitũ. Mũthamaki aheo gĩtĩo. Na ndakanoroto. Na ndagaikio kararingo. Tondũ ũguo nĩguo ithuĩ tũhiana. Rais sisi tunakuanga namna hiyo. Sisi ni watu ya heshima. If there will be any disrespect towards you, it will not come from this region. Sisi tutakuheshimu kwa sababu tulikupenda na tukakuchagua. Na mimi pia ningetaka kwa hii vita ya pombe nishukuru sana MCAs wa Nyandarua walitoa sheria. Kama kuna watu ya kuheshimiwa hii Nyandarua ni MCAs wetu na speaker. Na huyu governor aliyebadilisha. Mimi nataka niseme nyinyi ndio mlikuwa watu ya kwanza kutoa sheria ya kusaidia hiyo vita dhidi ya pombe. And since then Nyandarua has been very good. Na mimi nataka nitoe heshima kubwa sana inywe MCA nende mwetade muthejire.
There is a lot in that speech. I've just ensured that you get a snippet of it. It's a long speech. It's about 22 minutes or so. So, of course, the entire of the 22 minutes speech can't fit on this. It will mean that our video might go up to 1 hour. But we don't want just that. We just want to have a snippet or a grab of what was happening and what was going on. So, seemingly, just a quick one onto that. Gachagua seems to be a worried man, especially with Raila's influence in Ruto's government. That seems to be the center thing here. That is why Gachagua is having a political Damascus moment. That is the very first thing. So, after that, now, let's move into what would be the reason or what would have informed Gachagua's political Damascus moment. For one, just for a start, we saw that for the first time in many months, Gachagua had been complaining together with his allies that he's been denied the use of military choppers. That seemed to be one among the bones of contention that Gachagua held with his boss, William Ruto. You even saw at some point he was forced to hire private choppers in order to ferry him. But this time round, that was different. So that is the video. I'm just doing an overlay video of Rigathi Gachagua arriving at that event some moments before William Ruto in a military chopper. So that one had some indication politically in this country, because how comes it just happens after the dismissal of the cabinet? When that cabinet was there, Rigathi didn't have access to those choppers that he now seems to be having. So the writing is clearly clear on the wall that it seemed that some people held onto that. There are some people within the cabinet that held onto the reasons as to why Rigathi Gachagua was not using or was being denied the use of those military choppers. So it came as a relief to him, and now he has access to those military choppers, or things might not seem as they seem. So it might seem that now if whatever the people who used to deny Gachagua the use of military choppers are now out, then Ruto must have had a blessing or a hand in that. And now that he proposed to want to create a government of national unity, then he might also have reversed on that decision and allow now Rigathi Gachagua to use the military choppers, as was the opposite in the past. And now number two, if indeed Ruto now seems to be on the good books with Rigathi Gachagua, then the reason would be that, Ruto is looking definitely for Rigathi's blessings or Rigathi's support or input in the wake to the government of national unity as he so purports to claim. That's why the operatives in State House or behind President Ruto's campaign or advisory team made it sure that Rigathi Gachagua was in that very event that was held in Nyandarua, so that it can seem that the two of them don't have a bone of contention or don't have a beef in between them. So that would have informed that reason to make them share a similar platform in especially in central Kenya. The reason for this political Damascus moment, there seems, we cannot deny the fact that Raila held talks with William Ruto, and the talks revolved around means of ensuring cooperation in this government that Ruto holds, because it is crystal clear and it's quite clear that alone or Ruto with Rigathi, Ruto had made those political calculations that the recent wave of protests in this country against the government are not just a light thing. And the intelligent might have also informed him so, that don't take them lightly. This thing might have serious political implications in regards to the future of this country and in regards to the way in which you run your presidency. So, just as past leaders had done in their government, we saw Uhuru Kenyatta reach out to Raila in order to enable him transition through his term. We saw Kibaki reach out to Raila in order to enable him transition through his term. Then Raila also played some hard cards on the government of Moi. So, to Ruto, in his books of politics, then in as much as he was not for that decision, he always didn't want Raila to come near his government, but then he's been forced to do so. So, having been forced to do so, then it might mean that it is the same Raila that might have advised him maybe in their talks that, in order to manage the country's tensions that we are currently witnessing, then it would be good in order to call your deputy to books or to order and seem to cooperate and work with him. That would enable you maybe to transition through the first term. You see, you remember this one has come at a very unfortunate time for William Ruto, just within his first term in office. If the protests could have come within his second term, then the talks outside there would be Maliza Uende. But rather now, the talks outside there are, let's meet 2027. That is something that he must be very wary of. So, in Raila's mind maybe, if at all he wants to hold a government together with Ruto, then he doesn't simply want a government that is divided. Based on the popularity maybe of Rigathi Gachagua, and having understood the impact that it would have on Rigathi Gachagua being left outside, then one of the means first is to get Rigathi Gachagua to come and support this. After supporting their talks for a unity government, then maybe later they can now decide to take the similar trajectory that they took before with Rigathi Gachagua of sidelining him. Now that Ruto in that event will have already had Raila's support. The third reason, or the fourth reason rather, the talks by Rigathi Gachagua that Ruto should be respected by the leaders might be in itself an act of reverse psychology by Rigathi Gachagua. Because it is the same Gachagua who had been an offensive tour of the mountain, trying to bring the mountain to his side. And maybe he has now realized that already he has the ground on his side. Maybe, I'm not saying that that is the instance. So having had that, Now, when on a tour together with the president, he cannot claim to have some aspects of political differences between him and Ruto. Now that especially that Ruto has dismissed the cabinet, Gachagua is definitely trying to please Ruto so that Ruto might also listen to him or maybe give him some slots in the cabinet, and especially slots for people from the mountain. So, if he did want slots for people from the mountain, then he must appease to Ruto. He must talk in a way that seems pleasing to Ruto, especially on what he calls the ground, that is Mount Kenya, so that Ruto can also consider him and can see to it that, he has succeeded in taking away Mount Kenya, and therefore, if I'm still interested in Mount Kenya come 2027, then I must also listen to him. So Gachagua seemed to be wanting to seem to have a command of the mountain before the president. That was what he was simply communicating with that respect the president ideology or thing. The fifth reason could also mean to show that there is no bad blood between him and Ruto. That is what he wants to show other people who are purporting to want to come to help Ruto form the government of a broad-based coalition government of national unity. So he wants to portray that message that, your attempts are futile because from where I sit, that is Rigathi's seat, there is no political difference between me and my boss, or there is no bad blood between me and my boss. Of course, we'd said that this is with an intention of trying to appease Ruto to give him some slots of people whom Rigathi can actually call shots at within the cabinet. You see, that was not the case with the recent cabinet that was there. Maybe in Rigathi's political mind, he thought that Ruto having CSS from Mount Kenya, the likes of Kithure Kindiki, the likes of Alice Wahome Ng'ang'a, the likes of Moses Kuria, the likes of Mithika Linturi, of course, Mithika Linturi seemed to be on Rigathi's side. So, to Rigathi's political mind at first, it seemed that he had a very say in this government because he had people who could be loyal to him, could listen to him by the virtue and the fact that they are from the mountain. But that was not the case. At some point, it seemed that even on the issue of drug and substance abuse fight that Rigathi took to the steps of Mount Kenya, it seemed that somebody like Kithure Kindiki was trying to frustrate Rigathi Gachagua using the same thing. When the Mathira MP, Eric Wamumbi, was given those powers to command for the reopening of the closed bars that used to sell alcohol in that area. So definitely Rigathi Gachagua was looking at something that he thought with the first cabinet that these are people that he could take to his side, use to his advantage in order to fight William Ruto in the event of a political difference or a political split. But that was not the event. So with this kind of talks, that is what exactly he's looking at. So that Ruto can ask him, Mr. Rigathi, can you mention maybe two or three names that we can second to the cabinet? And definitely there, he will have to go to his people. That is what that governor, Mutahi Kahiga, was saying. You have to listen, you have to consult, you have to be careful. Definitely, he's been Rigathi's mouthpiece, mastermind. So that is what they're trying to communicate. That is what they're trying to portray. We want to be given some slots. We want also to have an equal say in the cabinet that you are going to form, because it is the truth that you are going to form the cabinet. But now we have to be wary, especially with the current political trajectory and geopolitics of this country. That is the writing as it comes. And that was just something that I just remembered. When President Ruto was dismissing the cabinet at the steps of the State House, Rigathi Gachagua was not there. But we remember these are people who are elected as a pair, with some constitutional experts also saying that, you can't afford to dismiss Rigathi Gachagua when you still have Ruto. That the only way to dismiss one of them is to dismiss both of them. So, if that was the case, then we expected that a major decision making or a major decision like the dismissal of the cabinet, then we could have at least had Rigathi Gachagua besides Ruto when Ruto was making the statement. Not basically besides, as in standing besides, but somewhere within the State House, so that it would seem that this is a consultative process and not a one-man process it seemed. That one, politically, it portrayed a different image, especially on the matters on as to how the two relate. The other reason of this political moment or Damascus moment, Ruto himself could have gone on a ground testing moment in Nyandarua to kind of try to gauge or test the impact of his cabinet dismissal in regards to the relationship that he enjoys with Rigathi Gachagua. So that would have been it. You see, when Ruto rose to speak, he said, mniombeni nipate wafanyikazi wazuri wenye watanisaidia kukamilisha hii agenda. So, hawa wafanyikazi wazuri, he wants to know, what is the impact of firing the cabinet secretaries? What impact does, how is my boss taking? How is his political base taking this decision? But of course, there is one thing that I keep asking myself as we come to the end of this. You know, Rigathi Gachagua seems to be somebody who is so politically drunk or obsessed with the mountain. And the question that we've been asking ourselves all along, and that other Kenyans are also asking themselves, is that is it that Rigathi Gachagua is only a deputy president of the mountain? That is where he says, what is the ground saying? That is where he uses the term ground. I've never seen him go to a county like, maybe for example, Busia, and say, you know, we are fighting alcohol and drug substance abuse here. Or what is the ground saying? That is where he goes and tells the president, you must listen to the ground. Even yesterday in his speech, he said that. Told the president that the only way that I can advise you on issues is to let you know whatever is happening on the ground. Thank you for watching. That marks the end of our analysis.